Trigger warning for today's episode. Today's episode contains content involving miscarriage and suicide. If this is going to trigger you or upset you in any way, shape or form, please stop the episode right now and go and listen to a previous episode.
She's terrible. NHS doctor, beautiful young woman, got everything going for her, but she had alopecia, and so there was a lot of stuff going on under there, and I'm just like, I can't take this. It's too much. Like, I don't know what to do. And I remember just sitting there for weeks. Like, I just wanted to die.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was like, I don't want to be around anymore.
Welcome to the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you unlock your full potential, both mentally and physically, to become the best version of you. Welcome back to an episode of the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you both mentally and physically become the best version of you. I'm your host, Daniel James, and today I've got a very, very, very good guest today. It's a gentleman I've heard about through a friend. She basically said to me, this was during lockdown, I think, said, have you heard of this company called Enlighten in the Shadow? And I was a bit like, no. And she went, you need to check him out. He's kind of based near us. I was like, okay, cool. So I checked him out. I've been following him ever since. And it's been one of those weird things. I literally have been in the shadows, following you really weirdly in a non-creepy way for just over a year. And then one day I thought, I should just get this guy on the podcast. So I reached out, and then here we are. So my guest today is Mr. Rory Green. How are we?
Hey up, mate. Yeah, you did slide in my DMs, didn't you?
I did, just slid in there, absolutely no shame.
Love
I was just
that.
like, straight in. But the weird thing is I had literally been stalking you for a while. I was a bit like, just seeing your content, I was a bit like, why have I not reached out to this guy? So I was just like, let's have a conversation. And then back and forth, and it's really easy to organise. And now you're here. And this guy, for those of you that aren't watching on Spotify or YouTube, I recommend you just quickly flash over there, because this guy's got the audacity to rock up to this podcast in a Leeds United shirt. So I've had to go upstairs and put on my Aston Villa t-shirt. And again, if we have a conversation off air, and the game last season I went to go see at Villa Park, Leeds against Aston Villa, and Rory was actually there in the Leeds fans. So.
Big time, yeah. Well, thank you for having me. The vibe's lovely in here. I'm already staring at some of these class books that you've got. 7 Habits by Stephen Covey. You've got Atomic Habits. So loving the setup. I'm loving what you're about, and I feel very welcome. You all seem dead sound, and I'm really honoured. I'm excited to put light on some things that do need to be put light on, and why I'm here, why I exist, and what my purpose is. So thank you. It's exciting. But I was a bit worried about 10 minutes ago, because we're getting a bit hostile in here with the whole Leeds Villa thing. I thought, hold on a minute. I actually know some Villa songs as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ippy-ayo, ippy-ayo, we're the Villa boys making all the noise. So on a level, I used to look after kids in care.
Yeah.
And one of them was a villain. And so I took him to a game, quite a good one. It was Bristol City at home in the Championship. I think you won about 5-0.
Oh, wow.
It was class. And you know what? I was in the Doug Ellis end.
Yeah.
And it made
mate,
me secretly go, I kind of like Villa in a really private way. But it's my favourite away ground.
We were just saying that when we actually saw that, all the games I've been to, the Leeds fans were nuts. And it was you guys literally, I was looking over, I was thinking, these guys are absolute nutters, and the atmosphere was incredible. It literally was like you guys were having a party, like literally like you've gone there, just have a party that happened to be at a football ground. Yeah. And like I said, I've got nothing against these. So like I said, as a football fan, you've always got a bit of banter, but I've got nothing against like Leeds at all. But like I said, the support is just incredible, and I love that. For me, it's like when you've got passionate fans, like you just kind of want the teams to do well. So when you've got your teams like City and stuff, where it's like, you haven't really got a fan base. That's for me where it's a bit like...
Yeah, it's all or nothing with Leeds fans. It always is. And
I love that. So... Let's just go back to, because obviously, like with this, when it comes to mental health, like men's mental health, and I know that a lot of my listeners are women, but like we sort of said off air, so although the listeners are women, like they potentially will have brothers, they'll have work colleagues that are males, fathers, grandparents, whatever it is. So although we're talking about men's mental health today, and basically how it's impacted both of us, but mainly your story and what you're doing now with the amazing work that you are doing, it's relevant because it helps you see the other side, because obviously as a woman, you're going to understand potentially a bit better women's mental health. But men don't talk. So I think this is a real interesting topic that we're going to talk about today. So can you just take my audience back to what got you on this journey to start with?
Yeah. Before I do go into that in depth, I want to make really clear that there's a bit of a stigma towards women, actually. A lot of people look at me, oh, you do men's mental health, you do men's mental health. What about women? I'm like, absolutely. What about women? Because actually women attempt suicide just as much as men. And a lot of people don't know that, because 3/4, sadly, of suicidal deaths are men, but women attempt just as much. So yeah, I want to make that clear. I'm all about women's mental health, but I'm a man, so I can't
I
fully relate.
I think the principles apply, don't they? And that's the thing
they
for me.
can
It's like,
do, yeah.
So when we were on,
Absolutely,
so
mate.
when we were on the radio, the Circle of Men on BBC Radio Nottingham every Thursday evening, check it out 8 p.m. When we're doing that, it's men talking about men's mental health, but it's mental health. Mental health is mental health, whether you're male or female. It is mental
100%.
health. It's just a case of how you sort of can deal with it. For example, like men will typically be down the pub, women particularly won't necessarily be down there. Obviously, they can do, but it's just understanding the different circles. So when we're talking, we're just sharing our experience. So we're not trying to be like, well, yeah, I know what it's like to be a woman going through this, because we don't. But take the principles what we're talking about, and that's basically with this whole podcast. I'll try and do is like just take the principles. So yeah, talk about your story.
To answer your question, I was just I was quite an insular lad growing up, and I was very self-aware of how I felt. But in terms of communicating it, understanding it, or given the space to be nurtured in that, no idea. And I'm quite a deep philosophical guy. Like I'm very observant of the world around me, and I went through like being a little boy and into my teenage years, always searching, always seeking about life, the world around me, my belief systems. And I remember a profound moment when I was about 17, all of my pain and my traumas, like, my nan dying of cancer, my dad leaving at 8 years old, that was a massive adverse childhood experience. So they're called ACEs, and these things are very prevalent. It's especially in men, because in the prison population, 95% of them are men, and all of them have 4 or more ACEs. So it's very, very important stuff. Like, as boys grow up, they have these adverse childhood experiences, and I had quite a few. And I got to the age of 17, mate, and literally I felt dread and paralyzed. And I couldn't explain it with words as I'm doing now, because I'm skilling myself as I go day by day. And I just needed to talk to someone, but I couldn't talk to my family. I couldn't talk to my friends, and not to like blow smoke out my backside. I was quite popular in school because I'd play football at Nottingham Forest, and I ran for Lincolnshire, so that just naturally had a lot of like relationships. But I just couldn't open up, and I said to my mum, I need to talk to someone. I remember going for counselling, and I just went once, and that one session helped me because she was a total stranger. So I would say that would be my first ever time of kind of like self-awareness and going down what I call Pandora's box, which we'll get to in a bit, hopefully, where you open the box and it all starts to come out, which is a barrier for men. So that would be the first time. And then I kind of got through a stage where I went to uni in America, as we said earlier. Yeah. I might have played football against one of your mates.
Well, two of my mates, South potentially. Carolina, Like a lot of my mates went to South Carolina, so it's a bit bizarre. Like, I can't believe that. And again, because we're basically the same age, same school year. So when you were there, I think I'm actually the school year above you, because I went to college an extra year before I should have gone to university. So yeah, we were there at the same time. Obviously, I was in Iowa, but you were South Carolina. Yeah, definitely played against some of my friends, 100%.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Small world. And I literally was pacing through life for 4 years out there. I went on a bit of a spiritual journey, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a bit. But just really yearning to understand myself, really wanting to do that. And I think a lot of guys might have that, but there's a bit of fear down there. So getting to right in the nuts and crevices of it, like the last 2 years, mate, has been absolute whirlwind. Like I was looking
at you, mate. Looking at your story, I'm so impressed with your story. And, like,
are you really? Because I'm hard on myself. Mate, sometimes I go, I need to do more. I need to do more. I need to do more. Yeah.
I looked at like how you started it, and I was like, so this guy's done this during the lockdowns. I was like, I'm impressed. Like, that's genuine. Like, I don't know you on that level to be like, I've got to like blow smoke at grass. But it's like, for what you've done and how you've created it, and the fact that someone came to me and said, "Have you heard of this guy?"
Yeah, I was like, so humbling.
Yeah, that's what it was. It wasn't a case of like I just randomly came across you. It was like someone said to me, "This guy's doing stuff to do with men's mental health in Nottingham. He's just down the road from us." I was like, "Wow, okay." Like, so I went to go check you out.
Yeah, it's honestly, I look back. I was driving the car, as I say, and just very blown away. Like, it's only 2 years. Stop. I need to stop being hard on myself, because I never get comfortable. Right? You're probably the same. You're entrepreneurial. You're a creator. You're a leader, and sometimes that can be quite a lonely place. And you celebrate your little victories, but you don't want to get stuck and go, "Oh yeah, sit back too long." Like, I'm always like, right, what do we need to do next? How can we grow? Who do we need to reach into? And all these things. But literally, like, the darkest time of my life, mate, 2 years ago, darkest time of my life. To give a bit of context, my wife and I are happily married. It will be, we've been married for 5 years. It'll be 6 years in December. We're best friends. seriously attracted to one another in many ways, and we've been trying for kids for 4 years now. And so at the time, it was like 3-ish, just coming up to 3 years. I still hadn't caught pregnant. Actually looking to adopt, but she wasn't quite ready, bless her. And so we're a team, so submitted to that. So right, we're not ready, sweetheart. We're gonna keep believing naturally. And we got to the Christmas time of 2019, and we went to America. And it's a beautiful moment for me. Like, it's quite deep, so get your snorkel ready because we're going deep today. We're going deep. And so Philadelphia is the birthplace of America, right? This is where the Constitution was agreed. My best mate from uni, as I alluded to, was in America. We went to see him and his wife and his kids. So December 19, and we literally caught pregnant from that trip.
Wow.
We won't go into detail, but it was from that particular trip that we worked out. So Sharice is pregnant, and we're just over the moon, mate. And it's like, oh, wow, this is all that God promises. Can't wait. This is going to be sick. I'm going to be a dad. Like, this has been my deepest desire for many years, especially as I alluded to earlier with my dad leaving. That was a big scar in my life where I was like, I thankfully got a good relationship with him now. I honour him, not, discredit him now, but, he really hurt me in many ways. I've got a lot of emotional abuse, false promises, a lot of brass behind him. So I really was like, I love him, but I don't want to be that guy. I want to be a good father, not a perfect one, but a good one. And so I'm just like gassed, like for 2 months, and then literally the worst thing happened. And just give a disclaimer here, because I'm going to go like raw here. This is what I'm about. If men are really going to be able to feel safe and comfortable talking, we're going in. So we're going in. So
I think you have to do this.
Yeah,
I think that when it comes to anything like this, and obviously I put a disclaimer before the episode starts with stuff like this.
Yeah.
But for me, we kind of pussyfoot around topics. And for me, it's like you need to really go into it to feel that emotion, because again, emotion drives everything. So it's like you've got to, if we're trying to connect with men, we have to connect with them on an emotional level. So we can't just sort of pussyfoot around the subject. So by all means, mate, go for it.
Yeah. So I will continue my disclaimer, because that's another thing that Sharice and I found out. 1 in 4 women miscarry. They don't talk about it, and then the men even more so don't talk about it. And I'm going to talk about my fertility journey as well, because it's been horrific for me as a man. But, miscarriages are horrible. And when she if you've had a miscarriage and this might be traumatic for you, I'm just saying maybe pause it, come back when you're ready or whatever. But she started like clotting, and the dread of that was just, it caused a lot of anxiety. And I'm, as the man, I'm like trying to assure her, we're Christians, so we're praying to God to like just protect it and all this lot. And I remember it was at my auntie's house, and like she was clotting really bad, and it was just getting worse and worse. And I had a job bleep test interview thing, and it was that night, and it just got worse. We continued to pray more, and the bleeding it was terrible, mate. And she was screaming in pain. We just rushed her to hospital, and you know how it is at A&E, right? You're thinking 3 hours, mate. She got rushed straight in, and like what I'm about to say is quite graphic, but she's screaming in pain, mate. And it's the worst thing I've seen in my life. Like seeing the woman that you love like in so much pain, you can't do anything, right? You feel helpless as a bloke. So I'm there holding her hand, and I don't know about anyone in this room or yourself, I get dead queasy with like big pregnant bellies and stuff. I don't know why, I just do. Like, it makes me a bit like dizzy, and I'm like, oh shoot. And it was one of my things, like whenever my wife gives birth, I'm gonna be like, am I gonna be the guy who just drops like, like boom, and then they turn to the attention and get the bloke up? I thought I was gonna be that guy, but mate, something came over me that night. Like seeing my wife in that pain, I just stepped up to the plate. I'm not talking about being manning up and tough. I just stepped up out of love, and I held her hand, and I refused to leave the room. And literally, like the clotting and the stuff that was coming out was blocking the area that was coming out. And I'm telling you, mate, it is the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my life. Like seeing like your child, and like all the tissue. The tissue was the worst thing because it was blocking her. And she couldn't, and they didn't even give her gas. Mate, it was terrible. I was holding her hand, she was screaming. It was the worst thing in my life. And like, so what that does, right, is causes PTSD potentially, post-traumatic stress disorder. And so there's a big trauma right there. So I'm, all these traumas, just adding, no offload, carrying all this baggage.
Because of that as well,
Yeah,
I feel. Did you get offered
heavy.
any support from that? Because I think obviously everyone knows what the woman's going through. Everyone knows that, and again, rightly so, because again, it's actually happening to them.
Yeah.
But I don't think people, again, in that situation, like what you're actually going through and what you're actually seeing as well, like you're getting more of a clearer view. Obviously, it's happening to the woman, but you're getting a clear view of what's going on.
Yeah.
Did you get any sort of support or anything like that? Because obviously, the main focus should be on the woman. 100% get that. But then I also feel at a certain point, someone needs to be like, mate, are you okay? Do you need to talk? Like, is everything good with you? Because it's both of you have lost. Obviously, one person's going through a lot more physical pain and trauma as well, but you've also gone through some stuff as well. So did anyone ever speak to you? I'm not talking about like your close circle of people, but like from the NHS or anything like that. Was there any support there for you at all?
I always give credit where credit's due, right? There's parts of the NHS and people in the NHS who are absolutely brilliant. Like, and I'll tell you a bit more on the fertility general of that. But that night they were brilliant. The nurses were incredible, and they really supported us. They did ask me how I were, but moving like after that point, nothing for me as a man. Nothing, not just absolutely nothing. Like it's. I'm almost going to write a book about my journey, not to slag off the NHS, but to highlight things. And I'm trying to work with politicians and clinical leads to get change, because it's like you completely like pushed aside. It's like, hold on a minute, it's like takes two to tango. So not really, no, is my answer. And literally, we stayed overnight. We got home the next morning, and I struggled all my life to open up and tell people things. First time in my life, I tell him my brother and my sister, this is my blood brother and sister, because my stepsister I'm going to talk about in a sec. And, you know, devastating. It's so hard to tell them, like, I've lost the baby and we've been waiting this long. And I went through such a great patch, mate, for 2 days where I just pushed my own feelings, my own mechanisms aside. Just, again, it's about Sharice, it's about my wife. Like, I need to look after her. And then this is the beautiful, sweet moment happened where Enlighten was birthed. Like, I did like one of the worst phone calls. I've had one off my mum who had cancer in America when I was at, uni. This was pretty brutal. So I hadn't told my stepsister or my stepmom, but I had let known to my dad that we've lost the baby. And my dad calls me and he's crying. And we're like flipping it. Well, we're talking about men's mental health, stigma, all this. But when you hear your dad, who's from that generation, you know, we're talking born in 1949, so you know, stiff upper lip. Nothing wrong with that. Like, I think we've got to find a sweet spot with men's mental health where we're finding that strength and that resilience, but we've also got that vulnerability. And so it's somewhere in the middle. But my dad was like way over that. I feel there's nothing wrong with it, but
My dad's exactly the same.
Yeah, full on, isn't it?
And anyone of our sort of age knows exactly what that is. Because again, it's not 100%. Necessarily the parents; it's their grandparents. Like our grandparents, their parents.
Yeah, it's a legacy, isn't it? It's like a cycle.
What they've gone through, like the wars and all that sort of stuff. So again, it's been passed down. So like I said, there's no sort of emotion shown. It's like that's it. And it's again. So I'm picturing it now. Like they actually have hearing him crying straight away. Like whoa,
it grabs your attention, and you're like, "The frick's going on? Like what's happening here?" And then I said, Dad, what's going on? He's like, "It's Liz." So my stepsister's called Alicia, and she's an NHS doctor up in Bolton. So I'm thinking, well, yeah, what's wrong with Liz? And he's like, I found her, like, she's gone, she's dead. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, the police are here now, they've cordoned it off. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? I was like, Dad, I'll come up now, what's going on? So I assured him a little bit, and I said, right, the police are there, they'll probably want to talk to you. I'll call you later and all this. And I'm like, bloody hell, like, my stepsister just killed herself. Sadly, and so again, it's quite traumatic for those who've been impacted by suicide. So a little disclaimer, so I'll talk about it a little bit. And she'd gone solo for about a day. My stepmom and my dad would text her, call her, not get anything back. And she lived in the centre of Manchester in her own flat. And then literally my dad had a key and went over and went to go see if she's all right, and couldn't find her. Went to the bedroom and she'd hung herself in a wardrobe. It's terrible. NHS doctor, beautiful young woman, got everything going for her, but she had alopecia, and so there was a lot of stuff going on under there. And I'm just like, I can't take this. It's too much. Like, I don't know what to do. And I remember just sitting there for weeks, like, I just wanted to die. I was like, I don't want to be around anymore. And so yeah, it's 2 years on, and I'm doing really well with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it catches you, and you're like, frick, the pain's still real, right? And yeah, you're drawing tears, like just going back to that darkness in that place where there's a 16th century priest who called it the dark night of the soul, where you're facing a reality where everything you've known hits the ground, everything you believed in hits the ground, and you're faced with the biggest predicament of all. You're like, where's the meaning in any of this? And yeah, man, so that was where, as I said, for weeks, I was like literally just, despite, as I've alluded to, I'm not here to preach, but I'm a born again Christian. I love Jesus, but even in there, I was like, God, I can't, I don't know where to see you in any of this. This is so painful, right? There's a guy called Job who had similar stuff, deep stuff, mate, and you're like, I don't know what to do. And yeah, it just went on for weeks of that anxiety, not knowing when I'd ever get a child again. How on earth is my wife going to recover from this? Because the nurse said it was the worst miscarriage they've ever seen as well, which is like...
So with stuff like this, I understand why they say that, but that also doesn't help. It's
yeah,
like,
I guess so.
I understand why they say it,
man,
but then you look back, it's like, well, if it's the worst, then it's like, wow, then it's going to be, it makes it almost like an even bigger uphill battle to sort of go through, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just want to say, by the way, like, that was, you got me there, like, because I know what it's like, and anyone listening to this, like, going back to that dark place. And the thing is, now I've gone back there so many times, it loses its emotion the more you talk about it. So the more you talk about it, it gets easier and easier. But it's not nice to look back. I look back at some old photos. I did this the other day of when I was not in a good place, and I just look back and it makes my heart go a bit, and you start to feel it, because it's like, again, as a male, feeling so helpless and powerless, and then you've got someone there as well that you're meant to be looking after and protecting, and it's like, I can't imagine what that must have been like for you. So how did you? Okay, we're going to talk about the religious stuff, by the way, because I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, but I love reading the Bible, and I think the Bible's awesome when people actually take time to read it properly. But I want to talk about in a second. But how did you get through that? Because this is, like you're saying there, it's like you almost feel like the world is closing in around you. You can't see the light in the darkness, and again, most people only see one way out. Yeah. How did you get yourself out of that situation?
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because they've proven that people who have been directly bereaved by suicide are 3 times more likely to then take their own life. And you'd think it would be the last thing that you'd want to do, right? I've just lost, a loved one to suicide. And so when you suck yourself out of the thing and look inwards from out, you're like, oh, it's a selfish thing to do. Why on earth would they do that? Blah, blah. But when you've been hit like that, you don't know which way to turn. So to answer your question, I had to take a day at a time, mate. Literally a day at a time, and just rationalise as best as I could. I used loads of things. I was going for walks, confiding in Sharice, not telling her I wanted to die. I couldn't tell her I wanted. I just had to give a little bit. Like, no, I'm just struggling. And thankfully, the lockdown had made me frustrated, where I was like, I don't want to rely on the government to tell me what to do or where to go. So therefore, I want to build something. And it was like I found meaning in my suffering, if that makes sense.
100%. For me, I say that depression's the best thing that ever happened to me. It's made me create what I've created now. And without the depression, I wouldn't have had the podcast. I wouldn't be here talking to you. So as bizarre as it is, when you come out of it and you look back, depression is the best thing that ever happened to me, because it made me who I am now. And I know myself. I've got myself to a place where I can help other people and guide them through this sort of stuff. So yeah, it's bizarre when I say that to people that haven't experienced it, but like you just said then, it's like it brings out the best in people. There's
a couple of things that, again, to answer this question, the most wonderful question is like, how on earth could you turn that around? How can you get from there to there? I've got a couple of fellas that I want to mention that they're not around anymore, but they're like heroes to me. I look up to them. One's Viktor Frankl. He survived Auschwitz and he became a psychologist. So he says this. I'm going to say it a couple of times because it's a bit like, I can't quite see it. So he said, in between stimuli and response, in between stimuli and response, there's a space. So in between stimuli, which is the Nazis spitting at him, kicking him, imprisoning him, treating him like dirt, and his fellow Jews. That's the stimuli. The response is, I hate them, I don't like them, or submit. But in between, they said there is a response. There's a time and a gap where you can work that out and you can start to understand it on a deeper way. Because what we all do, right, is we have something bad happen to us and we instantly respond or react. So it's just slowing it down and really trying to unpack it. And that's what happened. How I turned this around was, there's a guy called Adoniram Judson. He was a missionary to Burma, the first ever guy to probably do there. Like, we're talking, the difference between their culture and the West was just astronomical. To go over there to tribal people who had killed people previously, who tried to go there, and he was the first one to successfully get there. He lost multiple wives and children from diseases and fevers, and in his darkest hour, he said this most beautiful words. I'm going to read to your viewers, and this is exactly what you, brother, had found and what I found, and I want your listeners to find in their darkest hour. He said, "While therefore your tears flow, let a due proportion be tears of joy. Yet take the bitter cup with both hands and sit down to your repast." Here we go, this is it. "You will soon learn a secret, that there is sweetness at the bottom of the bitter cup."
Ooh.
Never
heard that.
There is sweetness at the bottom of the bitter cup. So in your darkest hours, you can find something within yourself, something beautiful, something sweet, where you think, there's no escaping this. I want to die, and this is real. I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I can't see through this. And then you find it. Mm. It's like a light bulb moment. I have them on our TikTok, light bulb moment, and I literally have a revelation and share it. And that's what I had. I was like, wow, I know what it is to lose someone to suicide. I know what it is to feel like I want to die and take my own life. Therefore, I've got a mission. I've got a purpose now, and I've got to get on with it. Mm. And then so we were talking, we were like, right, let's just do a YouTube podcast, because we can't go anywhere. I can't meet anyone. Yeah. And then literally, brother, I set up my, well, at the time it was how many years old? 7-year-old MacBook Pro. And I was like, anyone who isn't seeing this studio is mint. It's proper, like, it's class. Whereas mine, humble beginnings, I had a wine rack and some books and this lampshade facing down, and literally I started my first ever episode in Light the Shadows, and it was with my best mate who overcome an aggressive blood cancer, Simon Taylor. So if you want to check it out after this, obviously, mate, inspiring stuff. Mm. And that's how I started it. I was like, just providing an environment where men can listen in and find something. Again, his suffering has changed his life. Simon, brother, he's doing HMO, rent-to-rent stuff. The guy's driving in mad Range Rover sports, like V8 supercharged, and now got the truck, and he's smashing it. And people look at him like a bit jealous and all that, but I see right through it. That guy changed his life because in that bit of moment that he had the bitter cup, and he found the sweetness. Goes, I'm going to change my life. My greatest fears was I can't step out and break from the 9-to-5 bubble, which that safety blanket, which I think a lot of people want to break free from. Yep. And he was like, I should be dead, therefore I'm doing it.
Anything else on top of that, it's just like, well, I'm winning now. Like, I know what it's like to be there. It's
nothing
like,
to lose, because you stare death in the face. You go, and what?
And I think that's the big thing. When you go through that and you found yourself on that level, like yourself, your mate has, it's once you get to the other side. I think the original quote talks about God, but I use it as like the universe. Like, the universe doesn't give you anything that you can't handle. So right then and there, all that stuff that you had, the fact of you were just grieving the loss of your child, and bam, straight away, the loss of your stepsister, like, that is intense. Take both of those situations and put them years apart, still intense. But to have that so close together, like, he was like, right, you're going to overcome this. And then when you do, I've got a job for you. And that's what it's saying with me. Like, once you come through the other side, it's like, I get it now.
It's wonderful.
I understand the universe. I get it. I get, like, and it's, people don't understand. Like people say, oh, I don't know what passion is. I fully believe that it comes to you. It's not something you got to go and find. It will find you. I think so too, for me, I used to hate the sound of my voice, believe it or not. Yeah. But
me too. And you hear it.
Yeah, you hear it.
You're like cringe. You're like,
but for me, it's like, I've got information now. Because my whole thing when I came to the other side is I basically I have got to find out what the hell has just happened here, because I don't like being out of control. So I don't drink alcohol. I got really badly beaten up. I was out of control. So I was like, don't be out of control of my body. Yeah, I was like, I've been out of control of my mind. So I went on this massive mission. Then I basically got to a stage where I'm like, my life's pretty good right now. I need to tell people how they can do this because the information's out there. It's free. People just don't know where to look.
Yeah,
and that's my thing that really frustrates me is the information's out there, but no one, you've got to pay stupid amounts of money for it, or people kind of keep it to themselves. It's like, no, like, you've got to share. That's why I set this podcast up. Same what you're doing right now. It's like,
we're a free service, brother.
Exactly. And that's how it should be this
All
podcast.
day.
People say to me, I can't afford your coaching service, which again, isn't that expensive. But I'm like, okay, cool. My podcast is free.
100%.
My Instagram is free.
Yeah.
I put all the content out there. It's all there. Like, please, like, I'm not trying to like profiteer from this. Like, take it. Like, it's there. Like, and that's the thing for me. It's like when you get amazing people like you on, where you're sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you, man.
It's the same mission. You're just saying a completely different thing with your spin on it.
Yeah.
And again, we've got a great
in your own niche, in your own lane.
Exactly.
And you found it, and that's one of the hardest things too, is finding your niche, finding your lane, and staying in it. Sometimes the temptation can be like, oh yeah, and you know, I've got many interests, right? I'm a Dirty Leeds fan. You know, I'm a church goer. I play football. I like DJing. You know, I can go all different channels, but I have to hone in and go, right, no, it's prevent suicide. And whatever that takes, let's go. And we have, brother, it's so humbling. Like, yeah. Oh, I'm going to go again. 621 men we support privately on Facebook. And we've saved many lives. Like, literally. Guys who have been rejected by A&E, NHS, they've gone to the doctor, they've given 15 minutes, open Pandora's box, here, have a pill. And then it's like, oh, it's all leaked out. But then it's like, oh, wait 6 to 8 months for therapy.
Yep.
And we're picking up the pieces. Don't mind. It's an honour. But it's just like, whoa. We don't have, this is frustrating, we don't have quantitative data necessarily, but we know it's like lots. And I mean, thank God it to humble me, because it could go to your head, right? And it could be hundreds. It could be hundreds. Like, and I still think we're tiny, we're small, we've got to grow, we've got to reach in. Because there's this really frustrating thing that says, oh, reach out. Here you go, mate, text me, you know where I am. Reach out. And this is good for the ladies. Because I want to say ladies are amazing. I've not had one woman go, what about women? They just get it. They're so great at it. And I want to say this to women, like, please don't say reach out to a guy, because he won't. Because it might be too painful for him. He doesn't know how to. He's scared of the pain. He might not feel that he'll be believed. He might feel judged. He's simply not ready yet. There's so many.
Well, you don't feel man enough. As a male, if you're opening up to a female, you almost feel demasculinized.
Especially to your missus.
Exactly. And it's like, you're meant to be, again, stereotypically, you're meant to be the alpha, you're meant to be this, you're meant to be that. And then you're then showing weakness. And again, for me, as you know, it's not weakness. To come through this, it gives me goosebumps here. Like, to go through what we've gone through, that's real strength.
Here we go.
Like, and that's the thing. It's like, people don't understand that. Like, people want to talk about opening up about mental health. It's the single hardest thing you can do to actually be like, I'm not okay. And to actually then have that first step to do that, that's the hardest thing. And that's why it's like you said there, you hit a nail on the head here. When you go to doctors, for example, a good friend of mine now, he went to doctors and he's wearing Notts County top. Again, manly man, gets in scraps, the whole of the story. Goes to doctors, basically opens up that he's struggling. And the doctor went, oh, you're Notts County fan, that's why. That's what the doctor said to him. And prescribed him some antidepressants. He then came into the gym as at the time. And basically the gym owner was there and he was like, you're right. And he was like, no. And he's like, you need to come chat to Dan. And I got woken up, I was upstairs napping. The gym owner woke me up and said, you need to come chat to this guy. Wow. And literally he could not look me in the eye. Yep. And literally had a conversation with him. And then now the guy's absolutely awesome. He's moving over to Australia and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, for me, when you talk about how many men's lives you've saved, even if it's just one mate, which you know it's not, just saving one life. Yeah. That's all it is. And when I set this podcast up, my whole thing is like, if I can help one person. Yeah. So you're doing way more than one. You know that. But just one life, because again, you then don't know the knock-on effect of that, because that one person that you've kept alive has now got a kid or whatever it is, and then that then carries it on.
Man, do you know what? I've never even thought about it that way.
So, do you know what I mean? It's like what you've done is you've not just saved one life, you've saved more lives.
Yeah, I've not even thought about it that way. No, that is.
Or then he takes his life. One of his mates doing that cashless vet. So just saving one life, you haven't saved one. It's that whole of mate. It's giving me goosebumps there. Mate, this is another level of this energy in this room.
It's because we're going.
Mate, it's unreal. It's honestly like, I don't know if you can hear this, listen to this, but this is like it's getting me.
This is good.
Because it's like that spider web. So you've saved one, but then it goes down again. Same thing with like you've saved more than that. Just think how many that is. That's so powerful.
Shoot. Yeah, wow. Yeah. Isn't it humbling?
Yeah.
And but the greatest thing as well that I've learned is like, yes, so I get amongst it. I'm like, I do, because I do this all voluntarily. I can't. I don't usually like to say what I do. I'm in uniform service, but yeah, I do this all off my own back, brother. And like, if it grows and monetizes, so be it. I'm not going to be falsely humble about it and say, oh no. Like, but as we say, the private Facebook group and the YouTube is always free, because men deserve to have a free service to, have a place where they can grow, be transformed, be inspired, be equipped in the area of their mental health. Like that's that's the preventative mechanism from the suicide. And there's so many things we do. There's so many variables. It's honestly, mate, it's so humbling. But just my team, I would shout out to them, because they are wonderful. They're the same. We don't pay them. They're there because they want to be there. Like Steve Rose, Richard Smith, Jack Anderson, Blaine Hancock, and then Mark Bellamy and Ian Manning looking to come on board. So we've got a World Suicide Prevention Walk on the 10th of September. We're going to Warrington, where all these groups around the country are going to walk. It's called the Darkness to Light Walk. And so...
Amazing, Mikey. Get it put up on the screen for me if you can. We'll get it put on the screen for that, yeah.
It's so cool. It's so sick having all these people around the country got the same heart, same passion. I want to invite them on. They don't know this, but I want to fully invite them on our team, because of what they bring. Like, their heart is so right. They get it. They understand it. And they'll admit they're not perfect, just like me, but they just want to see a movement. And we've got more. And then lastly, and certainly not least, Ashley Cox, a schoolmate from Lincolnshire. He's out in Australia. He's lived there like 10 years. That guy's smashing up with the connections he's making with Brother Boys and even Movember and even Lad Bible. He's making some connections right now for us, huge. And we want to get into the bars in Australia. So like the UK is massive lad culture bars. And so we got beer mats, which in fact I've actually got some here for your podcast, brother.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, I'm gonna get them out on live. So here's for your drinks in the future.
Mate, I love that.
So
yeah, get on the camera there.
So literally,
mate, I love that. And you got the QR codes. Where's the QR code take people?
Yeah, this is the money shot. Oh, it's so good. When so intense situations like a pub for mental health, how do you like sneaky in the darkness? How do you get in my DMs? It's like, how can we get to a bloke who's having pints with his mates, or maybe he's snorting a line of coke or something, but yeah, he's freaking struggling. He's got all this baggage, and you go, oh, have these out. You don't have to have intense conversation and have a cry in the pub. You just see that. Just a little sneaky, like, oh, men's mental health group. All right, then I'll give that a go. And they scan it, and what it comes up is so sick. I'm so grateful for this thing. Comes up, and then it says struggling ? And then it gives you the YouTube channel, the private chat group on Facebook, and then Twitter and Instagram, and they can just do what they want from there. And they can open up. It's like a signpost ultimately.
So basically, give them what do you need, because they might not be ready to go into the Facebook group straight away. Because that's the thing as well, isn't it? It's like, so we had this conversation. We had an amazing guest on the other day, a guy called Jamie B, talking about Alcoholics Anonymous. Absolutely incredible conversation. He was talking about when you first go into the group, it can be quite intimidating.
I bet.
It's like you sort of then be like, but he's like, no, just come in and just sit down and observe. But even then, as makes it's Facebook, isn't it? So you've got your photo on there, you've got all that sort of private information. So again, for a man to actually take that step, maybe too much for them. So it's like, right, well, just come look at some of the YouTube stuff.
There's levels,
I remember exactly what you said on one of your, I think it was the YouTube intro thing, based on the different levels and prongs of attack you use. And one of them is like, you can just watch us from afar, kind of like what I do with you. It's like, just come and like with the podcast right now. Like, I don't know how many people I'm helping. And it's just every now and again, people are like, I've been listening to your podcast since it started. It's incredible. I'm like, I don't even know you. And that for me, I'm like, that's incredible. So there's men now that you don't know you're helping because they're not in your close circle, but they're there watching every single episode that you do.
It's mad,
again, from the shadows, just there watching it. But it's helping because they listen to it on the way to work or whatever it is when in private. So no one knows that they're struggling, but the information's there. And that's what it's all about. Like, so you may not be ready necessarily to open up in a group setting, or may not want to basically face up to it so people can see your face in it. But okay, just watch this. It's all there. Like, you got the Instagram, you got the YouTube. Just take what you need. That's what it's about.
That's what it's creating, is knowing that it's not one size fits all. There's no one way. Like, we're just a small group looking to grow, looking to save lives. But we also say to people, like, look, if we're not the answer, or you feel like not getting anything, the door will always be open. Like, we'll never turn our backs on you. But if it's not working for you, I say to people, we will make mistakes. Like, we'll say stuff or we'll be in a certain way that you don't like, and that's okay. But just tell us. But we'll always be here for you in one way or another. And another thing that's quite sick, I've got mates that I know. This is the barrier we're trying to break, right? This is talking about the stigma of men's mental health. I've got mates who know me well, know what I've been doing for 2 years, know how vulnerable I've been, like countless times, and they've joined the private Facebook group, and they said to me, Rory, I've wanted to share. I've wrote out a message to share on the group, and then I've not sent it, I've deleted it and gone back, and then another time. And so there's so many blokes that are just at different kind of like checkpoints, and that's totally okay. That's what I want to validate today to men, is like, if you're listening, and to a woman, if you're just at whatever place you're at, that's okay. Like, just remain, don't run away. You can just remain there if you have to. Like I said earlier, I took a day at a time. There was days where I had different strengths of like suicidal thoughts, but just to acknowledge, to be where you are is one of the most powerful things. I've got a model I need to trademark, actually. It's called ACT, ACT. And I really believe in this model, and I need to kind of big it up more. So A is to acknowledge, right? Like we talked about earlier, one of the hardest things to do is to admit and acknowledge where you're at. And if you can't do that, then you're always going to feel stuck. You're going to, just be in that dark place and see no way out. But to acknowledge is the hardest thing, whether that's going to the doctors, messaging us, messaging you, calling Samaritans on 116123, texting shout, wherever it may be. Like, that's quality. Like, the hardest bit is that. But once you do that, it's the C, which is to comprehend, which is to work out, start thinking about it. I was talking with Viktor Frankl, that space to think, to work out, like, what do I need to do? Where did this come from, right? Where did these dark thoughts come from? Am I doing something right now, or am I around someone, because there can be toxic people in our lives? Am I around someone that's really just not good for me? And I'm not talking about being selfish. I'm just talking about being real and accepting the way things are. Can I do something different? Do I need to journal this and externalize it through writing out my feelings? All those different things is the comprehending, and the T is, because if you just stay at A and C, you're still kind of stuck in a way. Nothing changes, right? You're just there. You remain, and you can ruminate. So rumination is where you overthink things. Yep. So if you're stuck at the C in the ACT, you're thinking over and over all these different things, but it actually doesn't lead to anything. So T is to take action, take ownership. And that's the beautiful fit. Like, a lot of people are scared. You're like, frick, I don't know whether to try that or join that group or do that. I just say do it scared, right? I'd said to you earlier, I'd freaking laptop on a wine rack, didn't really know what I was doing. Just do it scared. I didn't.
Make up as you go along.
Well, yeah,
but that's
who's judging it, right?
But the thing for me is that when you're struggling that much, what have you got to lose? Like, what have you got to lose? Like, you're there, you're struggling that much, you're in a bad place. So what if you go on Facebook and it's crap? Okay. Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to go on there, it's going to be crap, you're going to leave. Cool.
But that's the era we live in now. Everyone's judging, everything's instant, everyone's watching, it's all online. And so it like almost becomes a competition or a game where we're either comparing to ourselves or we're comparing to everyone online. And that's why, as great as social media is, and I love it, especially Twitter, I love Twitter, we have a trend, especially amongst young people, since 2008 onwards, where depression, anxiety and suicide has started to increase since the introduction of social media. And it's because we're doing all these comparison things. And I'm sure some of the women listening, it must be way harder for women. I know I see like absolute jack blokes. There's some unreal men online that I'm like, flipping out, that's class, that good on you. But women, it must be so much harder. Like, and there's a woman I love online. Sorry, I'm going a bit of a tangent. Kim French, you might have heard of her. Kim French is brilliant. She's gone on a massive journey, but she shows like all of her roles.
Oh, I've seen, yeah. I don't know what her name was, but I know exactly what you mean.
That stuff. That's what we need more of. Just she, I can say this, like, she's unreal. She's well fit. She's got a great body, but she shows those bits that you don't really see too. And I think we need that more. And that, again, it's what we're doing is we're running around an elephant in the room right now, which is vulnerability. That's the key element that I want to really drive home to your viewers. is vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
You said, oh, it's seen as weakness.
Mm.
It's the most powerful thing in the world is to be vulnerable.
It's being vulnerable with the right intention behind it, because you get people on the other flip side of this that they're vulnerable, stuck in the victim. Jones about the rumination. They're vulnerable, but they're stuck in the victim mindset. So my whole thing is, I think the thing for you as well that you're a very big believer with me is taking action. It's get yourself out of that victim mindset and take the power back. Because again, like I said, with all stuff that happened to you, you had every single right to sit there and be like, this isn't fair.
Yeah, it was
woe
valid.
is me.
Yeah.
And again, completely 100% valid. And no one would have said, mate, sort yourself out, like you've been pathetic. No one would have said that to you. But what you were doing was you've given your power to external things. So after that period of grieving where the time was right, and again, the universe will show you that this is the right time now, you then take back your power. You take back your power, and then you use that same, it's the same energy to sit there and grieve as it is to actually create something. So basically you're turning that loss and creating it into something amazing, and you give that same energy into it, and then you're basically helping save lives. It's that transfer of energy. That's all it is. And people don't realize that. Again, goosebumps again. So it's understand with this, it's for me, it's like, you've got a choice. And for me, I think when it comes to social media, again, I love social media. I completely agree. There's so much good there. But the problem is there's also so much negativity. And I think the negativity massively outweighs the positivity, because the kids nowadays at such a young age are bombarded with such fakeness. I used to use social media as a smoke screen for my depression. Turns at my lowest, that was when I was posting the most pictures of me modelling.
Ah, interesting, right?
I was using it as a smoke screen because I didn't want people to know how much I was struggling. I wanted people to think my life was amazing. So I basically posted all these modelling photos, all this, all that, like me training hard in the gym. But deep down, I didn't want to be here. But I was just using it as smoke screens and no one knew. And that's the. But then people would look at that and be like, oh, I'd love to be like Dan. Look at his life.
No idea.
It's miserable.
Like
no idea how miserable I was. I had six-pack abs. I was shredded. Doing what? Miserable. Absolutely miserable. And that's the thing for me, social media, is you're not seeing the truth. And that's what we said there. People need to be a little bit more authentic and vulnerable about their stuff. Like, so that woman there, she's that Kim woman you mentioned, clearly got an amazing body, awesome. But then what then happens is, as men or as women, roles reversed. Yeah. So when men with six-pack abs all shredded, women then look at their boyfriend and be like, why don't you look like that? But actually, if that same guy then showed his stomach after he'd smashed 3 pizzas and the lights weren't on and realised that he didn't look like that all the time, then they look at their partner and are like, oh yeah, it's just normal. It's a human body. That we all have. We're not perfect. I don't have to talk about mental health or anything like that. You've mentioned it before. Like, you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. No one is perfect. And that's also, I think, sometimes on social media where people can portray themselves as this perfect. I'm amazing. Let me just like preach to you. And that's not what it's about. Like, I'm not preaching. I never preach. You're not preaching. It's just like, we're both guys have gone through some stuff. Here's how we've dealt with it. Here's some information. Hopefully it helps you. If it doesn't, then hopefully it sparks something that leads down other paths. So for me, I love it when people say, oh, your podcast led me on to these other podcasts. Awesome. Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah. That's what I mean. It's like, I don't care. I don't care if you get the information from me. I don't care if you get it from Mikey. I don't care who you get the information from. Just get the information so that you can empower yourself, because that's what it's all about, the empowerment. I think so many people feel disempowered. So all we're trying to do now is just empower people. So you mentioned some great things here. So 3 things so what do you need? That's a great thing to ask yourself. Like, what do you need? We never ask ourselves, because we know the answers. We just don't want to ask ourselves the right questions. And then, like, where can I get that? Like, where are we currently at? And the fun thing is, like, the triggers. What's triggering you? And once you understand this information, then you're empowering yourself. You then got information. Right, what are you then going to do with that information? I think that's the key thing there. What are you going to do with that information? I've had another point on that. I can't remember what it was. Do you have something to say on that? I do sometimes. My brain's gone.
You know what's really cool is that you and I, in terms of what we're building, can be perceived as so different in its shell, like looking at its packaging per se. But you know what's beautiful is we're having this chat. It's so sick. We're going so deep, and what we're finding at the core, the roots of what it is that it's very similar, very similar, and it's so sick to be in this room having a chat with you. Like, before today, pretty much a stranger, right? And yet we can connect in this way and see what the heck it will do for someone's life.
Because we get it.
I think that's so cool.
This thing for me, I say to people, once you understand mental health and mindset stuff, once you get it, that is, you get it. How you package it can be whatever.
Yeah.
But it is it, whether you like it or not, and this is it. Like, what we're talking about is it. So it's like, it's the same thing. Yeah. And anyone else that truly gets it, at its core, it is the same thing, because it is what it is. You can package it however you want, you can charge however much you want for it, but it is it. And once you get it, you understand it. And that's the thing for me. It's like, that's fundamentally what it is. And this is what my passion was. Once I figured out what it was, I was like, well, why is no one talking about this? And it is essentially just taking ownership and actually realizing that you're in control. Like again, you again, let's go down this route. Like you believe in God, I believe in spirit. It's all the same thing. And again, if he's in all places and all things at all times, then he's in us right now. So you have the power to completely control your life. And we don't realize, we don't think about that. And that's the thing for me. I think that with social media and other stuff nowadays, like we're focused on external things to help us and save us. Mm-hmm. And what I say to people is no one's coming on a white horse to save you. You've got to save yourself. And you can save yourself. And that's what we don't realize. We don't think we can, but we can.
That's huge. Like, I believe, like as I said earlier, I believe in God. Like, Jesus is actually my Lord, my Savior. But what he says about me, that he loves me and that I'm more than an overcomer, like, if I don't believe that and I don't renew my mind and make those declarations, another thing is declarations are very powerful. What you say over yourself is so powerful. Like, our words are life and death, literally. And it will become your reality. If you keep saying something long enough, it also says, as a man thinketh, so he is. If you keep saying and thinking it, you will be that. It will manifest. You know, it's kind of like you are who you associate with. You will become those people you surround yourself with, right? You've got two amazing people in this room helping you out, but I can see your connection, like, that you've got going on. Your vibe's sick, like, because you associate one of them, you spent quality time, so you become something. And I just think that's massive. Like, if we don't realize the power that we have in our heads and in our hearts, like, you know, I don't want to go too spiritual, but you know, there's good and evil in the world. That's right and wrong, and there's something out there that wants to sabotage your life and take control of it and destroy it. Whereas there's a good force out there which wants you to prosper, wants you blessed, wants you to fulfill your potential, and not only that, this is a big word, destiny. What you have been put on this planet to do. Because I tell you what, there's a lot of people who are dead now that they didn't fulfill their destiny. I should be one of those. I should be a stat. But goodness, I'm walking this out, man. It's so good, and I want people to hear that. Like, you have a destiny, and if you're listening today, you've made it far enough to show how strong you are, that you are a warrior, that you are an overcomer, and you're here listening to this for a reason. So go and fly and become that man or woman that you are destined to be. Who's saying that to you each day? What I've just said. So then therefore we have to say it over ourselves. We have to save ourselves. And we tell people that. Because there's a thing called savior complex. I know, yeah. So I want to say it to you viewers anyway. Like, I have to be careful in the love and the passion I have to support people, not to make it almost about me accidentally, where I'm like really trying to like rescue them. It's like, no, we've got to unconditionally love them, provide really good listening ears, validate how they feel, but ultimately we have to empower them to help them to get back up. Like, we can hold them, but they have to also hold themselves up, if you get me. Like, I ran a marathon, I flopped at mile 24 and my body just switched off. I was running 8-minute flats. I was running for a 3.5 hour for Alopecia UK for my stepsister, and literally I could not lift my body up. I had people, but there's something in me I had to dig deep to say, I am going to finish this race. And I did. Miraculously, my body shut off. Then they stuck a freaking thermometer up my bumhole. Mate, it was mad. Like, it was the most surreal moment. Thankfully, it didn't, or else it would have become even more surreal. But, like, you know, but I had to save myself. Like, my missus was helping me up, like, feeding me brownie, and like, my colour came back and everything. I had to save myself. I had to use something. And actually, you know what was really cool? It was pity that fired me up to get back up. Oh, you can have a medal and a t-shirt. You've come so far. You're only 2 miles out. I was like, I'm not having that. So I got back. I had to get back up. One of my favourite scriptures, it says, a righteous man or woman may fall 7 times, but he or she gets back up. That's it. We're just using our resources, whether it's you guys at Prime Life Project or Enlighten the Shadows, whoever, like, it's just learning that we've got each other's back, but also Lee Wood, a boxer from Nottingham, has that song, Something Inside So Strong.
Yeah.
So that, innit?
Yeah.
You've got to look deep within and just find it.
It's there.
It is there.
It's there. And no matter how hard
right
it
now,
is,
it's there.
Yeah, and that's it. It's almost, for me, again, it says in the Bible, we can't serve two masters. And that's the thing for me. So, see, mate, I know
Boy,
stuff.
boy,
Mate,
you went to seminary school, didn't you?
So for me,
out in Iowa, you didn't tell nobody.
So for me, but I've done all this stuff. Like I was born and raised a Christian, but I never. My belief is, like I said, I'm spiritual. I'm not religious. I don't believe in a God, but I believe in the spiritual things. Cool. But I love reading the Bible. I genuinely, I love it because for me, it's got all this nuggets in it.
There's so much wisdom in
Mate,
there.
it's unreal. And again, for me, the Bible is basically a psychological drama of telling you how to literally live your best life. If you actually look into it, it basically tells you. So,
you sure you're not a Christian?
Because again, because you read it in the Quran, it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's
and again, the reason I've got Buddha on my arm, look at that. So for me, it's not about just Christianity. I look at all the religions, and as we said, once you get it, and they all have it. So that's what I'm saying. I look at all of it. So I'm not the kind of person who's like, oh yeah, just this. It's like, no. Like I look back at it because again, what was Jesus? He was a Jew. So again, look at Judaism. So all this sort of stuff I'm looking into. It's like it's not just about Christianity. It's like, I like to look at all of it and whatever people believe. It's like, well, what do they believe and why do they believe it in? But again, the fundamental thing is it starts with you. It's all within yourself, and you have to believe it. So like I said, you can't serve two masters. So for me, it's just understanding that this old version of you have to let it die and be reborn as this new version of you. So essentially, like you have to, this old version of you that has got you miserable, that you didn't like, or something's happened, you have to let that go.
It's a rebirth.
Yeah, you have to let that go and basically just find this version of you because it is in there and you have got the strength. And like you said, there's people out there to support you. As I was saying, you can take a horse to water, you can't make it drink. We can't make it drink. But if you are thirsty for help, if you're thirsty to save yourself, I promise you, there's people there that will literally grab you by the scruff of the neck and drag you to that water
all day long.
But you have to drink it. And that's the thing I say, like, especially as men listening. Again, we say this with women as well.
Yes,
but women tend to be a little bit more open about talking about it. But for men, just reach out. Just reach out because there is people, again, amazing people.
And we're reaching in.
Yeah.
Right now, we're reaching in doing this.
Exactly. So there's amazing people out there like Rory. Going to put all the links that the Mikey's going to put up. Like just reach out to Rory and the team. Like there's stuff out there. Like we want to help. It's what it's all about because like I said, just people, not just men supporting men, but people supporting people because like I said, the world we live in is very, very toxic. And I believe it's by design, but it's another podcast in and of itself. So but understand there is good people out there that actually do want to help you. So just please reach out. Is there a final message that you want to give to someone right now that's feeling stuck and out of control?
That's a really good question. As I said earlier about being where you are and where you're at, it's all right. It's all right to be where you are right now. Yeah. Stop being so hard on yourself. Yeah, stop being so hard on yourself. You are loved and you are beautiful inside and out. The world is hard enough as it is. You don't need to make it harder against yourself. Take another minute. Take another minute where you're at. And you're going to find the light. 100%. I love you. And, reach into us like we're reaching into you. And keep yourself safe. That's the most important thing. And if it means you need to walk somewhere now, do it. That's what I'd say.
Love that.
Yeah.
Mate, where can people find out more about yourself and what you're doing?
Yeah, so we do have a website which Ashley Cox built and he's done a sick job in it and we always forget to big it up. But so we're at www.enlightentheshadows.org. Our socials, so same handle at Enlighten the SH1. Now, interestingly, before we go, Instagram got hacked, and my personal Instagram and my personal Facebook. Now, talk about a tough time again with my cruciate injury. So I almost had a 2.0 battle for, losing my mind almost. But yeah, someone hacked my account, brother. I was fuming. I managed to get 2 back. We still haven't got Enlighten's back. So if you go on Enlighten's Insta, if it's a little bit behind slightly, well, that's why. We got hacked. We're trying to work it out still. It's tough. Twitter, we're popping off. Love Twitter.
Is it the same handle on Twitter as well?
Yes. Yeah. At Enlighten the SH1. And the YouTube channel, literally, thank God we've grown so much so I can just go type in Enlighten the Shadows and that's the logo.